Okay. Welcome everyone to our class on in the Gemara. We're trying to clearly see what each generation does. There's certain big breaks in Torah where there's dramatic changes, so we're watching that happen. So we've gone down to the Gemara and now into the tour, and of course we have the Rishonim here. So on the chart I had last week, I made a little mistake in the Rambam, so I just want to quickly correct that. I hope anyone who listens to it will get to this far down the tree, but Bezat Hashem. Okay, basically in the Gemara we were left off with Rav Papa and Rav Huna. The way that Rav, the Rif, and the Rush after them hold that Rav Papa held that the Masik can give equally Kesev, Metaltalin, or Meitav Karka. It's up to his choice. And that what was Rav Papa's opinion. The Ramah brought in, the Ran had a different opinion. He was Medayek since Metaltalin is better than Meitav in the Gemara of Rav Papa, because it could be sold, so anything that's closer to Kesev has a priority, and he put Kesev first, then Shavi Kesev, which is closer to Kesev, and the last one was Meitav Karka. The Rabbeinu is sort of alone, holding like Rav Huna, as far as his major Rishonim are concerned, and he holds that the Mazik can pay in Kesev or in Meitav, like Rav Huna says, and only if he doesn't have Kesev and Meitav can you pay in Subin. Then we looked at the Rambam. The simple meaning, the simple view of the Rambam, when you read him, and we'll look at him again, is that you don't go down to the Meitav Karka. You first take from the Mazik either Taltalin or Kesev. Now he doesn't say Kesev, but everyone learns that that the Rambam holds that Kesev and Taltalin are equivalent. I wouldn't say everyone, but that's the standard way of doing it, right? And he never mentions Kesev, so since we do have another Gemara they bring, it doesn't wrong. We went into it, but basically the general opinion is that Kesev and Metaltalin are equal, and only if you don't have that, it's Meitav. Now that's simply what he says. So we don't know where he hooks up, because, as we mentioned, putting Meitav on the bottom is not like Rav Huna, who put Meitav on the top and Metaltalin on the bottom, and it's not like the Rif and Rashi and the Rush who put Meitav as an equivalent. It may be the Ramah, because the Ramah also says a svara to put Meitav on the bottom. That's a possibility, but it's not exactly like the Ramah, because it doesn't go far as saying that Kesev is better than all of them. So it's an open question where the Rambam holds in the Gemara. Now, one of those revolutions, or let's say breaking points, like between the Tanaim and the Amoraim, and the Amoraim and the Gaonim, the Gaonim and the Rishonim, is the Rambam. The Rambam makes his own summation of all the halachas in the Gemara. So that's always problematic. It was problematic in his days. A lot of people criticized him for not bringing his sources. Again, you always have this problem of making things easier to understand by simplifying. But when you simplify, you also run the risk of not showing people where you got what you said. And we're very, very committed to the fact that you have to have a Masara from Har Sinai. You just can't say your own opinion. The Rambam obviously didn't have wasn't making things up. The question is where he got it from. So when he abbreviated, the problem was, where did you get it from? So one of the big problems we're going to have in the in the coming discussions in our classes is the Rambam, because it seems that the Tur simply is talking about the Rambam. Whether he is or whether he's not is also a debating point. But another let's say turning point in Jewish learning was really the Tur, because the Tur wrote the Shulchan Aruch, and the Shulchan Aruch was accepted by Klal Yisrael. The question here in the Torah is again the same type of problem as the Rambam, because when you're writing a halachic work, and unlike the Brif and all the other people who wrote on the Gemara itself, when you're writing an independent halachic work, the problem is where did you get what you said? Okay, so the Tur is what we're discussing now. And here, I'll close things up so it'll be less confusing maybe. Let's just close everybody up here. Now, the Tur is a lot more complicated or difficult to understand the source than at first appearance. We'll read the text again, we'll see what they say. There's going to be machlokus, the beginning machlokus between the Beit Yosef, Karo, who later goes on to write the Shulchan Aruch. He says that the Nizak has the first priority to choose between metaltal and omeitav. We're going to read all this stuff more carefully than we did the first time we went through it. But he says the Nizak can demand if he wants metaltalin over meitav. He says that he learns from, he claims that the Tur learned that from what the Rus said about Malva, that the Malva, who's equivalent to the Nizak, has a right to get anything that's close to the Kesef. So he has a right to take metaltalin over meitav. But once he does take the metaltalin over meitav, so then the Mazik can decide whether he gives him metaltalin or Kesef, because according to Rav Papa, metaltalin and Kesef are equal. So that's what he says. Now, where he got it, we're going to have to now discuss all that, but that's really his Peshat in the Tur. The Bach disagrees with him, and he says, no, the Tur is really just echoing Reb Papa and the Rush and the Rif and all the people that held that Kesef, metaltalin, and Subin, metaltalin and meitav are all equal alternatives. Okay, so we have our work cut out for us here in this stage. Since the halakha is going to follow Tur and the Beis Yosef is going to go on to do the Shulchan Aruch, this is going to be a critical junction in our learning. The question will be, does the learning now switch to the Rambam's position? And if it does, where is the source of the Rambam? If it doesn't go to the Rambam, so then where is the source of the Tur, and how did he come to his conclusion? So again, there's a funny phrase that they use in computer language, in people programming. This is KISS, keep it simple, stupid, which means that you're supposed to simplify things. The problem with simplifying things is another common phrase they say is everything is simple to the simple. So when you simplify things, and people take only simple understandings and they don't understand the subtle differences. So that's where we're holding. We're going to now go back into the Gemara, and we're going to reinvestigate some of the things that we said last time, because there's a simple reading of what the Tur says, and then all of a sudden the Beis Yosef is going to make things a lot more complicated than we thought they were. Okay, so here's the Rambam again. The Rambam says, "Keshebeistin niskaken ligva hanezik mi nichse hamazik," when the Beis Din is obligated to collect from the property of the mazik for the nizak. So then it's govin min hamataltalin techila. So it looks like the first thing you do is you go after metaltalin. Okay, and I said here Subin. Subin is, everyone agrees metaltalin is even Subin, and we're going to make Kesef an equivalent, even though the Rambam doesn't talk about it, but we said there's proof that he would say that they're equivalent. People do talk about it. So that's what he simply says, right? That the first thing you do is you collect from the metaltalin of the mazik. And im lo hayu metaltalin klal o shelo hayu metaltalin keneged kol nezek. But if the mazik doesn't have any metaltalin or money, and or he doesn't have enough, so then and only then go v'nasham and the karka minayafi b'nichse mazik. Then you collect the rest from the land of the mazik, and you always take the best of his land. Okay, and that's how the Rambam talks about meitav soda or meitav karka. He calls it the best of his land. Meitav yahayafi b'nichse hamazik. And he says, "V'kol man shematzu metaltalin," as long as you find metaltalin, afilu sumin eino niskak l'karka. So anytime you find metaltalin, even sumin, then you're not empowered to take his karka. So when you simply read the Rambam, he's simply saying that sumin is better than meitab, and you have to collect from sumin first. That's a simple reading of the Rambam. Now, that's going to be problematic because we never saw anybody that said that sumin is better than meitab. I mean, no one that in before the Rambam, except we'll put on the side the Ramah, okay, who said even kesef was better. But the standard people like the Rush and the Rif, and the Rambam usually follows the Rif, said that Subin is equal to Meitav. And of course, Rav Huna is on the other side. It says Meitav is even worse than Subin is worse than Meitav. So there's the problem. If you read the Rambam simply, it looks like he's saying that Kesef and Subin is better than Meitav, and you should only, as long as the Mazik has, you should run after it. So here we go down to the Tur. Okay. Now the Tur seems to be quoting the Rambam. He adds a few additions in order to clarify the halacha in certain cases. But if we read him simply, he seems to be echoing the Rambam. He says, "Keshabaim ligvos lenizak nisko." Okay, it's keshabeistin niskak and ligvos minikzeh mazik. It's almost a paragraph. Roan im yesh lemazik metaltalin. You see if the mazik metaltalin. And if he does, ein yordan lenechsei lenechasab limkor kakasab. So if he does have metaltalin, you don't go to a property and start selling it off to give it to the nizak. Ella yiten lo metaltalin. You give him metaltalin. V'fil sheyesh lo kesev yochel l'shalom subin. And even if he has kesev, he can pay with subin. Why? To call mila the metaltalin meitafu. So if you read again the Tur, he seems to be echoing the Rambam. He says that the first thing you do is you go to the metaltalin. You tell the mazik to pay up in metaltalin. And if you ask the mazik, then the mazik, if he has kesef, he can decide to give kesef. He adds that to the Rambam. He can decide to give kesef or subin, because Subin is equal to Kesef. Maybe that's one of the reasons why Rambam, I did a search in the Rambam, I couldn't find the word Kesef over there in the Zikin. Maybe that's why he doesn't write about Kesef, because it's obvious that metaltalin is equal to Kesef. Be that as may, that's the simple reading of the Tur, right? I mean, it looks like the case is over. We decided against the Mazik. Now we say to the Mazik, could you please hand over your payment? So he says, well, I'd like to pay in kesef and metaltalin, or he's not around, or he doesn't want to pay, whatever the story is, why we have to collect from him, or he has no money. Let's say he has no kesef, so then we go after his metaltalin, and we don't go after his karka. Very unusual. That's the simple pashat. I mean, if you just read the halacha simple, and now he just adds the Tur, v'shamanos fimash yochel limkor miyad mekomo, and you do a evaluation of the metaltalin according to what it can bring in the present place. Okay, whatever could sell at the present time. So miyad, in other words, you say, well, this is selling the shuk right now, and that's how much we subtract from the debt of the mazik. Okay, now what happens, says the Tur, im ein lo metaltalin, just like the Rambam says, im lo hayu metalton klal or shelo hayu metalton kol, what happens? Then your Yordin Lakarka Ha'idish min Chasab. You go down to the karka and the best of his property, and then he gives a few other dinim here. V'filu im zibris the mazik k'idus the nizak. Even if the zibris of the mazik is equal to the best of the nizak, we don't accept that. The zibris of the mazik, that is. Ela kanomi idishu b'karkasav. That's the Gemara. We said he has to give his super prime property. That's called meitav sedehu. Okay, and then some other pradinim of Levim Yeshlo Shnei Yidis, so Ein Hanizach Yochol Lomar Tenli B'Yidish Ploni. What happens if there's two equal good lands of the Mazik? We said B, so the Nizak can't say, well, I'd like to have B. Ela Toliberatzon Mazik Li Ten Lo Mashi Yirtze. The Mazik can decide when it comes to which one he gives the Nizak. Aval k'shemazik chofetz gam ken litan lo idish bikesh. But if the mazik says, okay, I'll give you not A, then the mazik can't say to the nizak, but I'm going to want you to wait for the higher price. And that's it. Okay. So the tour expands, it looks like, from simple reading, he's expanding on the din of the Rambam. He's adding some cases of Shuma, he has the case of Kesev, but basically like he's holding like the Rambam. Lo and behold, when we read the tour, the Beis Yosef on the tour, he learns the tour quite differently than the simple meaning of what we just said. Okay, let's see what he says here. Okay, so first he quotes the Torah, right? Lahagbo lenizak nisko roanim yesh lamazik metaltalin ein yordan linikasei limkor karkasav ela yiten metaltalin. I'll get into these little superscripts as we go into it. Okay, so that's what he says. He quotes the Torah. Now he gives his interpretation. So he says, Ken Kasav Harash Paparakama the Babakama Le'inyan Pirs Balchov. Le'inyan Pirs Balchov nearly I Isle Lelova Metaltalin Vikarka. If the lova has metaltalin and karka, then confinan le lemesav le metaltalin behen hamal v'yotem mikarka a. Why? Kevin de zuzi yehiv le shakol kol midday de makreve zuzi tvei v'hainu metaltalin. So the first thing that the Beis Yosef does is quote what the Rav said about the relationship of the malva and the lova. Here I have the malva and the lova. The first thing we have to do is line up the lova to our mazik and nizak. So we just have to be careful in doing that, right? The malva here is the one who's trying to get his money back, and the nizak is also trying to get his money back. So that they're trying to collect. Who are they collecting from? Well, the nizak is trying to collect from the mazik, and the malva is trying to collect from the lova. So both trying to get money out of someone. They're the motzi. Okay, although it's different situations, but okay. So the first thing that the Beit Yosef says is that, or he tells us that the Rosh says that the malva, who's trying to get his money back from the lova, can demand metaltalin over karka if he wants. I mean, if he wants to accept the karka, he can do that, but he has a right if the lova wants to give him karka, he says, no, I'd rather have your metaltalin. He has a right to say that. He could, of course, accept the karka, that he could do, but it's his right to do it. And the reason why is because he gave the lova money. So since he gave the lova money, he has a right to collect that which is better, closer to money. So if the lova says, now I want to give you some karka, he said, no, I gave you money, I want money back. So metaltalin again is equal to money. Okay, so he can say, I want your metaltalin, I don't want your karka. So that's the first thing that the Beis Yosef does. He brings this din that the Rosh said about lova and malva, that the malva has the choice, and he could say, I want metaltalin over karka, even if the lova wants to give him karka. Then, no, I'm sorry, I want your metaltalin. Okay, I just made some charts over here. Doesn't matter because you can very easily start losing who's doing what, because this is like we're getting to very subtle issues here. Okay, here's what before I explain.
You just have to think about the direction of the flow of money.
Meaning?
You have to think about which way you want the money to flow. In other words, in the case where at this point we want the money to flow from the loiva back to the malva, and we want the money to flow from the mazik to the nizek.
Exactly.
So, right.
From the mazik to the nizek, right. I mean, exactly. You want to flow the money back, right? I would like to use the word pirion, which we saw in Tosfos, for instance. He's trying to get, well, again, it's, okay, let's say, however you do it. I was just looking at he's trying to get his money back, but you're using it as a general thing. You're flowing from the mal over back to the nizak, and that's more parv, which is very good to do. Let's keep it parv. Okay. So, great. All right. So that's the first thing that the Beit Yosef does. He brings us what the Rosh said about the relationship between the Malv and the Lova. Then he says, V'dima Rabbeinu priyat, here's that word, priyat nazik and lepriyat balchov. And the Beis Yosef says the Tur made a comparison from the Malva to the Nizak. That's what he says, right? So in other words, the same, let's say, advantage the Nizak has that the Malva has. Preference, right? He could say if the Mazik wants to give him karka, he'd say, no, I'm sorry, I want metaltalin. Now, the question is, how do you read that in the text?
In the text of the Tur?
Of the Tur. Because he's trying to...
He says it. I mean, he doesn't say compare it to a malva, but he's pretty much learning that it's the same in workings as a malva. So how does a malva work? That he has the right to get metaltalin first. And over here he's saying that this Nizik also has the right to get metaltalin first from the mazik.
Well,
so,
yeah, go ahead, please. Continue. I'm sorry.
So the Beis Yosef really should say, umashma meitur, the umashma mirabenu, the dima, because it's not clear. It sounds like the Beis Yosef is saying he just leaves out the word mashma, which is that would be the puzzling part. If you would say that it's mashma that, you could say, yeah, it's mashma that.
Well, again, how is it? I mean, we read simply that we're talking about what the mazik is supposed to give. The mazik is supposed to. So now, why does he all of a sudden switch the case and tell us that no, this is what the nizak can demand? I thought we were talking about we go to the mazik and we say to the mazik, you can either you have to give your metaltalin.
Well, he's not.
Okay, I mean, you read it. Let's read the words.
I'm not so clear. Look, okay, go back.
Let's go back to the words.
He says clearly. Well, first we're quoting the Rush. So the Rush clearly talks about Baal Chayv.
Yeah, that's 100%.
He says, "Kafinin le lemesiv le metalpoli." So by Baal Chayv, the Rush says that the Bezdin can force the Malva, can force the Leva to pay back the Malva with metalpoli.
Right.
Now, what does it say here in the Torah? It says, "Kishabam lahagvais lenizik nizkai." So lahagvais is a lashon that there is a third party who is effectuating this collection.
Right. The Bezdin.
Lahagvais is not going on. Right. It's not going on the nizik himself. Lahagvais lenizik is to cause the nizik to collect. Right.
Yes.
So then he says, "Ryan yesh l'mazik metaltalin." So Ryan means Bezdin has to see. Because Bezdin is going to tell him what we see that you have is what we're going to force you to give. So again, it's like a kafinan.
And what did the mazik want to give?
What did he want to give? He'd want to give
It doesn't matter.
The lowest preference possible. I mean, for him, he has the mazik's preference is to give something which is unwanted. That's his, whatever that may be. We have to decide what is the most unwanted asset that a person would want, or would not want, I should say. I don't know if you could use a double negative. Unwanted that he would not want, but okay. I would imagine that's what the mazik would want to give. Why would he want to give anything more? But we're going to say that mazik you have to give metaltally.
So, but you're running into a little bit of a problem, because wouldn't you want to give metaltalin more than the land anyway?
Why?
Well, I don't know. That's the flow of it. Roanim yesh l'masik metaltalin ein yordan l'nichsav limkor karkasav. If he has metaltalin, then we don't grab his land. So what did the mazik want?
You're saying, one second.
Okay, that will hold off.
I hear what you're saying. Okay, you're saying, no, but what you're saying is a good point. That it sounds like we're saying that Ein Yordin, the lashon of Ein Yordin, sort of indicates that Yordin is like a lashon of going down and raiding his possessions. And Ein Yordin says, we're going to hold off, and we're not going to raid his valuable possessions because he has metaltalin, so we're going to force him to give him metaltalin. So it sounds like a mashmais that really the mazik would want to pay with metaltalin, and maybe the nizik really wants to get karka, but we're saying, no. The Bezdin is going to take from him metaltalin first. That's the word sound like, right?
Yeah, that's what it sounds like. But that's not, I don't think that's what the Beis Yosef is saying, right?
No, he's clearly not saying that, because otherwise it would not be comparable to a Baal Chayv.
Exactly.
A Baal Chayv, the Rosh clearly says that we force the loiva to pay the malva. In other words, if you force the loiva to pay the malva, over here we're not forcing, if you want to learn that way in the Torah, we're not forcing the mazik to pay the nizik. We're doing him a favor, and we're telling him, oh, you have metaltalin, good, so therefore we don't have to take your karka. So it's not forcing him. He's saying, thank you. He's happy.
Right. So the way I put the Beis Yosef into the tour is by adding these little gray words and saying, Ein Yordan Linikasav Limkor Karkasav Lefi Haratzon Shel Hamazik. In other words, the way the tour is learning, the mazik wants to give the mazik wants to give karka, and the nizak wants metaltalin. So we don't listen to the mazik and grab his karka. Ella, we force him, the mazik, to give metaltalin according to the ratzon of the nizak. That's why I had to put in those words there.
What did you put in? Let's see. Let's see. Ratzon shel mazik.
Ein Yordan l'nechasav limkor. Ein Yordan l'nechasav limkor karkasav lefi ratzon hamazik, because the mazik wants to give him karka, and we don't take the karka for the nizak. Ella, we force the mazik to give metaltalin kafi haratzon shel nizak.
Right.
Okay, so this is problematic. This position, we're going to see. This is going to be a big machlokus now on what the tour meant. What we thought was the simple meaning is going to be the Bach, but that's not how the Beis Yosef learns the tour. He learns the tour this way, and this is going to be the stage that great battles now are going to start taking place between the Beis Yosef, the Bach, and we'll get into other people also talking about it, okay? And then it's going to then spill over into the Shulchan Aruch, because of course the Shulchan Aruch is going to echo the position that the Beis Yosef Kar had in the tour. So this is what's happening, okay? All right. So anyway, this is what I put here. So I put here, first lined up in this chart, of who's who, right, where the flow of money is going from, so we get that straight, because don't get the Malva mixed up with the Mazik. Yeah, the Nizak and the Malva both trying to get the money, and the Mazik and the Lova are, excuse me, the Malva are trying to get the money. That's correct. And the Mazik and the Lova is the ones that have to pay the money. Okay. But here I wrote, according to the Beis Yosef, the case that the Torah is writing about is the case where the Mazik wants to give Karka, and the Nizak wants Metaltalin, and Beis Yosef says that the Nizak can force the Mazik to give Metaltalin because he can do that in the analogous person who is the Malva can do that in Balchov.
Right.
Okay. Now, the case that's missing, the missing case.
You want to push the Beis Yosef?
Yeah, I just wanted this Yosef.
Okay.
What about if the Mazik wants to give Metaltalin, and the Nizak wants Karka? What's the din?
So based on what we're learning, that the din is to give metaltalin. So the mazik could force the nizik to take the metaltalin, because that's the din. The question is, does that give the, does the nizik have any other rights? He doesn't have any right to say what he wants. He has the only right he has to take what he's entitled to.
I'm trying to think for a minute myself. If the Mazik wants to give him a Metaltalin, can the Nizak force? How come he doesn't have the upper hand also to force Karka?
Because that's the din. The din is that he has to receive metaltalin. So if the mazik says, listen, your din is to take metaltalin, I am prepared to give you metaltalin. I don't want to give you karka. Why should we force the mazik to go out of his din? That's the din. That's what he's supposed to take. Why should we give him another advantage? We already gave him an advantage.
Okay, why did we give him an advantage that he can force metaltalin over karka? When the mazik, in this case, when the mazik wants to give karka,
we really have to understand.
Why do
the Beis Yosef meant? The Beis Yosef is telling us because he has a right, like a malva, to receive anything that's closer to cash. For whatever reason, we don't know why he has that right. We don't understand it. I don't understand it.
Right. Well,
but
right.
That's the fact. The fact is that the Beis Yosef is clearly saying that the Torah understood that the same preference that a malva has to receive cash, a nizik has to receive cash. Now you could say, oh, but if the nizik says, I don't want cash, I want something less than cash, then that should be his right too. Why should that be a right? Where did that right doesn't exist anywhere? Mm-hmm. There's nobody that says that there's a right to take less than what you're entitled to. There's a right to take what you're entitled to.
Very good. Very good. Yes. Very good. Excellent. Good. Okay. So that is the excitement in the Beis Yosef. And that's how he explains the Torah. He says, "I'm not doing anything here except reading the Torah." I mean, he's not, and also we notice here that he's putting this chiddush in the Torah, that the Torah took what the Beis Yosef said about Malva and applied it here. So he says that's the source. I asked, what's the source that the Malva can demand metaltalin over karka? It's because of this comparison. That the Nisa can demand metaltalin over karka. It's because the Malva can do it. Okay, and somehow there's a comparison. We went a little into that, but we have to say a svara over there, but we'll hold off on that. Okay, but that's what he says. Okay, so now there's some few other steps in the tour. Okay, the tour says, the Beis Yosef says about the tour, he quotes, "Umash katav afil sheish lo kesev yochel l'shamo b'subin, to call mile the metatlan meitavhu." There he says it's the memra of Rav Papa and Rav Huna Brid Rav Yeshua that we know very well. Okay, so again, I made a little chart here on this way. It looks like the Nizak has the upper hand when it comes between demanding metaltalin over karka, that he can do. But once he says he wants metaltalin, so then the mazik can give him kesev equal to metaltalin because metaltalin and kesev are equal. So the mazik can give what he wants. There's no difference between metaltalin and kesev. But there is a difference between metaltalin and karka because of this analogy to malva. And metaltalin is closer to kesev, and therefore he can demand it. Okay?
Yep.
All right. So that's what I'm saying. On one hand, it says keep it simple, stupid, and the other hand, it says everything is simple to the simple. All of a sudden, this din has turned into a very subtle split din, so to speak. The Nizak has a right to demand metaltalin over karka, but once he does want metaltalin, then the mazik can give metaltalin kesev equally, and that he learns from Reb Papa. Now, as far as the shuma, how we do the evaluation, again, the Beis Yosef is going to say that the tour felt that what the Rush said about the mazik and the malva and the nizak about the shuma here and now is going to apply to the mazik. So we see that the according to the Beis Yosef, we're going to have to say a svara. Why? But according to the Beis Yosef, the tour felt that what the Rush said about malva and the malva-lova relationship should be imported to our case of Nezikin, whereas the Rush clearly said not so. Okay. So we'll slip the Shuma part, okay, and here in this other piece, he said, "V'im ein metatlan yordan lekarka edis min chasav." If the mazik doesn't have any metaltalin, so then you go to his idis, and he says that's a Mishnah in Perek Nezaken. It is a Mishnah that says you, but I think the Mishnah only says, I'm going to hold off on that, even though I said last time we would get into a little. It's just a question of idis is collected. I don't know why he brings the Mishnah, but he does. The Mishnah there does say that you collect from idis. Okay. And that's a Gemara that we know clearly, so that's not a big problem, and we won't go. Okay, that's not our main concern. Our main concern is this relationship of Meitav, Kesef, and Metaltalin. Okay, so that's the tour. That's the Beis Yosef in the tour. Okay, so now we're going to read the Bach. Okay, so I'm going to put you on the floor. We didn't do the Bach together. Let's read the Bach together. First, I just quoted the tour just to have him there again. Oh, you can forget my gray until we read the. Okay.
Kishban lahagvais. Nira dirabenu lamad lifsekach me'ahida perakam babakama. The tour paskined that the right, or that Bezin has to collect from the mazik, metaltalin first, from the Gemara and Bava Kama. The Rami Le'abai Le'Rabba.
Yeah.
Last time.
Did you look that up?
I have. I'm using a real tour here. I haven't.
Oh, very good, excellent.
And I have the new print. You know, the Shira Devaira print.
Oh, excellent.
And on the bottom there's a footnote that says the Gemara Iso Le'Rava. So
right, exactly. Good, very good, excellent. But that we release the text and the amendation we understand. Okay, good.
So Ksiv, and this is the question that Abai asked Rava. Meitav Steu in. Midi Achmina Loiva, Tiny Yashav Rabba Shava Kesava Filu Subin. So that was the question. Now he skips all the way to the end.
Mm-hmm.
And with Papa, Rav Yeshua, Kol Mili meitav hu. Everything is meitav. The less of lay min meitav. Everything is meitav, except for karka. Karka has different levels, and therefore, if he pays with karka, he has to give him meitav, so that people should want to buy the karka.
Right.
Alma, the metaltalin have tfei meitav mikarkoi va'afilu subin. Now, I don't know what the alma is there. We're going to have to figure this out. But he's saying that we see from that Gemara that they're saying Chomili is meitavu, that there's some way to understand from that Gemara that metaltalin is better than karka, and then the next level would be meitav karka.
Okay, so let's slowly, but let's just answer what you said at that point. Okay, first of all, it looks like he's reading the Gemara. We'll have to explain how, but he's reading the Gemara to say that Subin is more meitav than meitav aretz. Right, that's how he's reading it. We with the Rush and everybody, the Rush and the Rif, and said it was equal, and yet he says no. He's mashma that Subin is better. How is he mashma? You asked. Because the Gemara said that kol mile meitav hu lebar mi'ara. Everything is meitav except ara. Ara is not called meitav. So it is not meitav. The Torah then lowered the bar and said meitav is acceptable. Or meitav aretz is acceptable. But not that it's the way he's learning, but not that it is an equivalent to real meitav, which is kesef and subin. That's how he's learning. He's learning that first statement that everything is meitav except land. Land is not called meitav. I'm sorry, it's just meitav. And why is it not called meitav? This we learned although in the Ramah, because it doesn't have the convertibility. So why did the Torah say give meitav karka? It said it lowered the bar. It was
when you give karka. So the Torah is saying when you give karka, you have to give meitav karka.
Now the whole diyun here is: does that make does the meitav of the lichvo saleh equal to the quality of imlo misdaben mahas misdaben min achrisa? That was our whole problem. Everyone before this, we were learning the Rush and the Rif, and everybody, it was equal. In other words, what you lost in the amount of customers, you gained in the excitement of the local customers. That means you have more desirability here, even though you have fewer customers, and that's going to compensate for the less desirability, but the more customers out there. That's how we were learning all the time. Now here, he's not learning that way. He's saying that the Torah lowered the bar and said, okay, Mazik, we'll give you a special break, and you can pay with meitav karka. But never that it's really like the kesef and the subin, because it just doesn't have the convertibility. But that's a chiddush of the Bach, right?
Right.
What he gains, we always have to look, what does he gain, what does he lose? What he gains here is reading what he's going to gain here is in 1 second is reading the Torah in its simplicity. That the first thing that you give is kesef and subin, and if you don't have it, you give meitav. That's the simple meaning of the Rambam and the simple meaning of the Torah, without getting involved in who, with the Nizak, what he demands, and the Mazik, what he demands. Okay, now. The Beis Yosef, of course, doesn't want to go that way, because then we're going to have to say the svara. So he'd rather keep Reb Papa in the simple and talk about the relationship of the Nizak Mazik as opposed to the Okay, but let's see what the Bach says now. You see how interesting this is becoming here. And also remember the beginning of Derek Tefunos. Derek Tefunos said right in the beginning that what the Gemara does is clearly bring out all the pluses and minuses of both sides, so that will allow us to give us a proper evaluation, and then okay, the Gemara will decide or won't decide, but that's the way, that's the Masara that we have. You have to put your argument on the table, and that argument should clearly define pluses and minuses that you have and that your opponent has, and then we'll have to decide which one is the better way. But obviously, if there was one simple way to explain this, then we wouldn't have an argument here. But there's pluses and minuses. Okay, so the Bach is going to say that from the Gemara of Reb Papa, we see that Subin is better Meitav than Meitaka. That's what his Alma is. That's what
right. Right.
Go ahead, keep going.
Right. Okay. Alma does not have its same Meitav Mekarka. Afilu Abava Pisha Nizik. Even if the nizik would rather have karka, which was the question we were discussing before, matzi amale mazik, ana yahivna lach kedinach mimetav. The mazik could say, listen, I am giving you according to the proper din of meitav, the hainu metaltali, afilu subin. So he has a taina. He says, look, I am giving you according to your din. Your din is to get metaltalin. Your din is to get subin first. You cannot have a claim to force me to give you karka before I give you metaltalin or subin. That's my preference.
Right. Right. So now what we have to do now is read, if that's the case that the Tur is talking about, according to the Bach. So now we have to read that case into the text. Okay?
Right. Well, I mean in the text of the Torah, so let's go.
In the text of the Torah. Let's go back to the text of the Torah now.
So you could say that the Ein Yarden is, we see if he has metaltalin. So then, even if the nizik wants to get paid with metaltalin, ein yardlin achasav limkar karka isav.
No, even if the nizak wants karka.
Karka. I said metaltalin. I meant karka.
Yeah. Yes, I know.
I said right. Even if the nizik wants karka. Ein yarden achasav limkar karka isav. Elayitin metaltalin. The mazik still says my right is to pay with metaltalin.
Beautiful.
Beautiful. Works out very well with the lesson of the Torah.
Exactly. Now that's how we read the Torah, simply also. So it works out very well with the lesson of the Torah. Okay.
Right.
And I just put those things in gray now. That's all. Okay, that's that fits very nicely into the question of the text. But what's the downside? The downside is that we're going to have this svara is the downside. You see, that the Gemara of Reb Papa was meant that karka was less than. It wasn't, it didn't compensate with the excitement of meitav karka to make it equal to the metaltalin. It always was a step down, and it was an even. It lowered the bar.
Right.
So we lost and we gained.
Right.
We gained a simple pashat in the Torah. Right.
Right.
But that was at the expense of Reb Papa. I mean, of the simple pashat in Reb Papa. Okay, that's
right.
And so we're putting, and I think that's really really what's at stake over here. You see, what's going to give in the system here? Do we reread Reb Papa, or do we reinterpret the Torah? What's importation from the Mazik? Okay, so let's finish the Bach here. Okay. So we say.
El de iming metaltalin, but Mazik doesn't have metaltalin. Then what does he give? Yohev lein metav sadehu dahainu idis. Then metav means metav sadehu. What is metav sadehu? Idis.
Good.
Avo im mazik chafetz litin loy karka. Vanizik chafetz metaltalin. Let's say the mazik wants to give karka, and the nizik wants metaltalin. The nizik cannot force him to give metaltalin. It is karka oisav. Ksiv kra metav sadehu. Umetav kama yishalim. Umizel kasav rabbeinu klam. The pshitahi.
Okay, let's stop there.
The nizakin.
Yeah.
Now, to me, it's not so pashut, but he's saying it's pashut. Why is he saying, again, what is the case here that he's saying? He's saying you have a case now where we don't really know what the assets of the mazik are. But he's saying you have a case where the mazik wants to pay with metaltalin, and the nizik wants karka. I'm sorry, the other way around. Mazik wants to pay with karka, and the nizik wants metaltalin.
Right, that's correct.
Now, what does that mean? The mazik wants to give karka. What does he own?
Let's say he owns both. Let's keep it simple. He owns both. He owns both, and now the question is.
Bach is saying the Bach is saying that it's pashut that. Let me read this again because I think I'm getting confused.
You should be, but it's okay.
The nizik cannot force him to give him a metaltalin, but the mazik could give what he wants to give, which is idis karka isav. And Bach says this is a pashut thing, so that's why the Torah didn't write it.
Right. So let's go back to what
we thought he was going to say. Before we read his Pesach, what we thought he was going to say was that of course the nizik could force the mazik to give him a metaltalin, because that's the din. The din is kishaban lahagvas lenizik niz kairai and yishla lamazik metaltalin. And then we touch the things and say and yodlin nechas of limkar, meaning to say, and we do not go into his nechasim and force him to give karka where he has metaltalin. Now this is really a case of that case that we just said that the Torah is coming to exclude, which is a case where it's opposite case really. It's an opposite case. But again, let's review again. Based on what the Torah says, that the Bezin goes and takes metaltalin from him first. And we don't go in and force him to sell his karka. Now, when you have a case where the mazik wants to give karka and the nizik wants metaltalin, the Bach is saying that there the mazik has the upper hand and he could force the nizik to take the karka.
Correct.
Why? I don't know.
Well, that's simple. Isn't that simple, Peshat? 1 second. Again, that's not so simple.
Yeah. So you're saying it's simple. Well, the reason why we're saying it's simple is because that we're allowing. So we have to forget about the Beis Yosef for a second, because obviously.
Yes, this is a head-on collision with the Beis Yosef.
Forget about the Beis Yosef.
Right.
Forget about the Beis Yosef.
Right.
Let's understand the Bach's thinking. The Bach is saying like this. The Bach is saying what, and this is, I think we alluded to this earlier, what does the mazik want to hold on to? He wants to hold on to his karka. Karka is very hard to replace because it's a location. There's only one location like that in the world. So he doesn't want to give it up. So therefore, when he has metaltalin and he has karka, we go collect from his metaltalin. And even if the nizik wants karka, we say, no, you have to get from the metaltalin. But if the mazik says, I'm not so attached to this particular piece of karka, I'd rather hold on to my metaltalin, we give him that right now. That's the right we give him. That's what the Bach is saying.
Right.
So really
Excellent.
what we're doing is we're giving protection to the mazik, and whatever protection he wants, that's what we're going to give him.
Right. All the cards are excellent.
Right.
All the cards are in the mazik's hand. Whatever he wants to give the nizak, he can. Right?
Right. So how do you know such an idea that we give this protection to mazik? So it says, Meitav Sedei, Meitav Karma Yishon. That's what the Bach says, the pasuk. Oh, so the pasuk, maybe the pasuk is using to say he has to give idyas. If he wants to give karka, he has to give idyas.
Exactly. That's it.
Not to say that he has a right. Right. That's what he's using the pasuk for. He's saying, oh, okay, now once we paskin that the mazik is allowed to create a preference of karka over metaltalin, what kind of karka does he give? Could he give him the worst piece of karka that he has? Then we say, no. That he can't do because there's a pasuk that says, Meitav Sedehu. Once we say, mazik, you can pay with karka, it must be Meitav at all times. So if the mazik says, I would rather give him my Meitav Sedehu than give him my metaltalin, then we listen to him. What if he says, I only want to give the subin of my karka or metaltalin? Then probably we'll say, okay, you have to give metaltalin. You can't give not subin, the burus of the karka.
Right.
You can't force the you can't force the nizik to take zibur's karka.
Right. Right.
So that's interesting. So he's saying. So the question here is, what is the preference? Who's being protected, and whose rights are who has more rights?
Right. Excellent. Now I made this chart. You're 100% there. So let's just see if this chart is correct. Okay, that I made. Okay, I made a little chart here of the mazik and the nizak. Okay, maybe too many colors, but that's what I did. Mazik and the nizak. Okay, who wants to give what? And then we have the Beis Yosef and the Bach. Okay, and also we have one other thing. What is the stated case in the tour? That's another thing we have to hold on to. Okay, so the Beis Yosef says the stated case in the tour is that the mazik wants to give karka, and the nizak wants metaltalin, and the din is ein yordin to his karka. The nizak has a right to demand metaltalin. Of course, I guess he could take karka if he wants, but he doesn't want it. If the nizak doesn't want the karka, he could say, keep your karka, I want the metaltalin. Is that correct? That's...
Yep.
Okay. Now, what about the second case, which is not written? Let's go according to the Beis Yosef. This second case is not written in the Shulchan Aruch according to the Beis Yosef. Okay. What's the second case? What happens if the mazik wants to give metaltalin and the nizak says, no, I want your karka? So what would the Beis Yosef say here? So he has no demand. That's what we said.
Wants to give
metaltalin, and the nizak, I said, no, I want your karka. I don't want your metaltalin.
If the mazik wants to give metaltalin and the nizik wants karka, so according to the Beis Yosef, the Beis Yosef is learning that the nizik has a right to take anything that's closer to Zuzi, and that's it. He doesn't have any rights.
Exactly. No, right. I'm giving you closer to Zuzi. What do you want from my life? Right. Beautiful. So even though that case is not stated, in the Beis Yosef will tell you, right, case number 2, but it's obvious what the din would be, because we learned the bigger chiddush of you always can take more than the Zuzi. Okay. Now, the Bach learns the case in the tour just the opposite. He learns the case in the tour is this what was unstated according to the Beis Yosef. He learns that the mazik wants to give metaltalin, and the nizak demands karka. And the din is ein yord in the karka. We don't listen to the nizak, right?
Right.
Right? So we has to, the Bach will say metaltalin, and I mean the Beis Yosef will agree, it doesn't matter, but that's not the case. But the case that the Beis Yosef was talking about was not written in the tour. What would the Bach say if the mazik wants to give karka and the nizak wants to take metaltalin? Oh, let's see. What would that case be again? Now, according to the Bach, according to the Bach, if the mazik wants to the mazik wants to give karka, the nizak wants to demand metaltalin. What would the Bach say?
The mazik could give karka.
Exactly. Very good. So this chart, Baruch Hashem, the chart is correct, and we see there's a big nafkamina in din now, right, between the Beit Yosef and the Bach. So if in the case where the mazik wants to give karka and the nizak wants to give metaltalin, the Beis Yosef says, the nizak can take it because it's closer to kesef, and the Bach says, nizak has no rights over here. Why does they? The cards are in the hands of the mazik, and he has to take karka. Right. So this case will be the disputed case, right? This case here, number one, will be the disputed case. Okay, that's okay. Here we are. Right. Now you have a few more moments to go through the end of the Bach. I mean, I don't know what your time frames are. Okay, so let's finish the Bach now that we have him.
I'm not going to 10 minutes.
No problem. So let's try to finish the Bach. I mean, we should be able to do that easily. Aval imam mazik chovitz, we said, imam mazik chofetz li karka, v'hanizik chovitz betaltalin, ein hanizik yochel lekofo, right?
Right.
But of course, the mazik has to give the yidus karka. Right. That case, which was the mafarish case of the Beis Yosef, he says, that was never, that's obvious. So he didn't have to talk about it. Okay, now he's going to keep going. Yeah.
The cost of a rush per kama above a comma. The Rabbeinu Elsaman Kuf Aleph, Ela Bal Chayv. The Im Chafetz Malva, the Metaltalin, Ein HaLeiva Yachal HaKaifa Likach Menu Karka. That it was only in the case of a Baal Chayv that if the Malva wants metaltalin, the Leiva cannot force him to take karka. The Kivin Zuze Yahiv Shakol Kol Midi Dimnikrav Luze Tfei Vahin metaltalin. So Abba B'ni Zaken Ein HaNizak Yachal HaKaifa Litin metaltalin. So here, clearly, the Bach is arguing with the Beis Yosef.
100%.
That when the Rosh said this svara that the Malva has a right to take anything that's closer to metaltalin, that is strictly by halva'a, and does not apply at all to nizikin, and therefore the nizik, the mazik, the mazik could tell the nizik, who is like the malva, the nizik is like the malva, the mazik could say, I want to pay you karka. And the nizik has to take the karka.
Right.
Not like a malva and a leiva.
Right.
Where the leiva cannot tell the malva, I want to pay you karka.
Right.
The malva could tell the leiva, I want to pay you karka. The malva could say, no, I don't want karka, I only want metaltal.
Right. Beautiful. So here's another...
The Beis Yosef learned.
Yes,
no.
Go ahead.
Yeah.
Exactly. So here's another point for the... Exactly. Here's another point for the Bach. Because he keeps the rush where he keeps the tour and the rush together. Right?
Right.
Beautiful.
Right.
Okay, so let's go a little weiter. We have to make a scorecard here.
Yeah.
Okay.
And this that the Torah wrote. That Bezdin goes down and takes metaltalin from the mazik, So there's like sort of a repetition of what he said before.
Yeah, exactly.
Kidiksiv kramitos deu, the ka'amar the chayiv litin metaltalin, kidiksiv nami kor yashav afilu subin.
Oh, wow. Let's get that slowly.
When the Torah is writing, that Bezdin goes and takes from the mazik metaltalin, that's when the mazik wants metaltalin, and the nizik wants karka, the mazik could say, you must take from me metaltalin. And that's why it's ein yarda means. Ein yarda means we don't listen, like we said before, we don't listen to the nizik and go down into the nechasim of the mazik and take his karka, but we take his metaltalin because that's what he wants to give.
Right.
How do we know that the mazik has this ability to decide that he wants to give metaltalin? That's why there's another pasuk of Yashiv, and that's how we enter the stira between Meitos Day on Yashiv. Like the Bach explained at the beginning, from Rav Papa and Rav Yeshua, it's mashma that the mazik has a right to give metaltalin before he gives karka.
Right. So I just want to point out here my little diagramming of the thing here. He says, where the Rebbeinu, what was the Mefarish case? Where the mazik chofetz liten metaltalin, but the nizak all karka. Right? And what power does the nizak have to say, give me karka? The pasuk says, I have the right, says the nizak, to the man karka. It says, meitiv sedeyu, v'kamar dechayav li. Excuse me. Exactly. So in other words, the taina of the nizak to demand karka is from the pasuk, right?
Right.
And the chiddush of the Torah is v'kamar dechayav likach metaltalin. We say to the nizak, you don't know how to learn Torah. You must take the metaltalin from the mazik, because it also says, another pasuk, Yashiv afilu sumin. So that pasuk is talking about what the mazik can give.
Right.
So the Bach is reading the Torah as saying what the chiddush of the Torah is. We don't listen to the nizak when he claims meitav sedeu, meitav karmo. We tell him Yashiv, come on, he can give you metaltalin.
Right.
So he's also learning Reb Papa in the simple way, right? Which means that the mazik has all the cards in his hands.
Yeah, and that's the way that he said Reb Papa in the beginning. He's staying consistent with the way he explained Reb Papa and Reb Yeshua at the beginning of his opening statement.
Right. And what about this thing about that metaltalin is tvei mikarka? He didn't say that, did he? What about this statement?
He did.
Metaltalin is tvei meitav, yeah. Which means what?
The lace of lay meitav kiechad lokvar tzolazvina alma the metaltalin have it tvei meitav mikarkai.
And in the case where the mazik wants to give kesef subin, we say you can do it because it's better than meitav. That was the point. I lost the point there. 1 second. Chofetz yoter b'karka, right? Matzi the mazik. Look, I'm giving you meitav. Afilu subin, right? So we don't listen to the nizak because the pasuk says, according to Reb Papa. 1 second, I got lost here.
The pasuk says that mate. Yeah, no. Again, so the case that he's saying here is when the mazik wants to give metaltalin and the nizik wants karka. The mazik says you must take metaltalin because the pasuk says yashiv. And the way we understand Yashiv from a proper Rav Yeshua is that metaltalin is actually better than karka. So
right.
You can't say that you want something that's not your din and that's worse if the pasuk says you have to take what's better.
Right. Right.
And now he says, right? So
yes.
That is not like the Beis Yosef. Why is that not like the Beis Yosef? Because the Beis Yosef, let's see before I see it inside, the Beis Yosef held that this is all a mirror, not a mirror, but a parallel rather to Malva and Leva.
Right. And therefore,
since Malva and Leva, the mazik has a right to say. No,
No,
I'm sorry. The
very
Malva has the
good.
right to say, I want to take what's closer. The Nizik has, the Malva has the right to say, I want to take what's closer to cash, but he also has the right to say, I'll take something that's further away from cash. So therefore, according to the Beis Yosef, the Nizik could say, you're right, my right is to say I want something that's closer to cash, but I have a right also to say I want something that's not as close to cash. I want karka. Is that what he's going to say?
Nope.
With like in the Beis Yosef, the Heva Mediva Rabbeinu, the Kavanas Lam, the Kasinan Lema Mazik Lutel Metaltlin.
In the other case, in the case where the Nizak wants metaltalin, and the Mazik wants to give karka.
So then we force him to give metaltalin. Why would the Bach wouldn't hold that also? The Bach would hold that also.
Just 1 second. No, if the Mazik wants to give karka, say the Mazik wants to give karka, and the Nizik wants metaltalin. Again,
the Mazik wants to give karka,
and the Nizak wants metaltalin.
And the Nizik wants metaltalin. So
what would the
base holding?
Yeah.
The Beis Yosef.
Yeah, what's Beis Yosef said?
The Beis Yosef would say in a case where the Nizik wants metaltalin, and the Mazik wants to give karka, the Beis Yosef would say the Nizik has the right to take metaltalin.
Right. And what would the Bach say?
The Bach would say that in a case with that it's pasha, the Bach holds it's pasha that the Mazik can give metaltalin. I'm sorry again. The Bach holds it's pasha that the Mazik can give karka.
Right.
Because it says because he doesn't say why. He says it's pasha.
Right. He just says it's pasha. Right.
We said a svara that the Bach held that we want to protect. We want the Mazik to be able to keep whatever his preference is and give whatever he doesn't want to have. And normally a person usually wants to keep karka, that's why he gives him talcum first. But in the case he doesn't want to give karka, so we say, okay, give karka. That's the Bach held.
Right. Right. So now you can read the last little line here. V'lo k'divrei ha-Beis Yosef, tehevin divrei Rabbeinu, the Kavanah Salomar.
Like in near Medivrei Yosef, the Heven Medivrei Rabbeinu, the Kavanah Loimer the Kasinan Leila Mazik Litin Leim Metaltal. Right, because the Beis Yosef learned that the Mazik and Nizik is like a Malva and a Leiva. So if it's like a Malva and a Leiva, then the Malva could demand cash, so too the Nizik could demand cash.
Right. Which is
or
right.
That's closer to cash.
Right. And says the Bach. Right.
The Bach says that's not so, because according to what I said before, the Bach says that I said it's pashut that the Mazik has certain rights, and his right is to give whatever he wants.
Right.
Oh, he says it clearly, al yaina.
Right.
He calls it al yaina.
Right.
He has rights.
Right.
First, so it comes out we have a major machlekes here between the Bach and the Beis Yosef as to whose preferences are more important here. Is it the Mazik's preference, like the Bach holds, that he decides whether to give metaltalin or to give karka? Or is it like the Beis Yosef that holds that the preference is up to the Nizik, who's like a Malva, and he has the right to decide, because he has a right to take anything that's closer to cash. And therefore he can decide whether he wants to take the closest thing to cash or move a little bit further away from cash.
Excellent. Excellent. So now what's left to do is just make a nice little scorecard here.
Right.
Okay. But we see this is beautiful. Okay. That's fantastic. Right. Okay. So
right. Now the thing to go back is to dive back into the Svaras again.
Exactly.
How it all comes out from the Gemara.
Right.
So how does it all come out from the Gemara? So
right.
the Bach is learning.
The Bach is learning
that you have Rav Papa and Rav Huna Beis Rav Yeshua.
Right.
And he held that from Rav Papa and Rav Huna Beis Rav Yeshua, the Svara tells you that metaltalin is a better way to pay than karka, because it's mashma that from the Gemara, because you have the svara in loy mizdav and hacham mizdav in the mosach riti. But if he doesn't have metaltalin, then he could give the next step, which is meitav karka. But even though karka is really on a lower level, the Bach held misvara that the whole reason why we are giving metaltalin first is to protect the mazik. And therefore, if the mazik wants to give karka, that's his right.
Right.
Whereas the Beis Yosef is learning that he doesn't bring down the Gemara. He doesn't say where we know it from. He says his earliest source.
Oh, he does say he does no.
He says
well, yes, it's the rush, but he does give the Gemara. He does bring the Gemara when he says kesef is equal to metaltalin. That he does. But you're right. The
Beis Yosef.
Yeah, but that's only he says. Oops, this is the Beis Yosef. He brings the Gemara when he says that afil sheish lo kesef yochel shalma besubin. That he brings the Gemara from Rav Papa.
Right.
That's the difference between kesef and taltal. But the fact that the Nizak
can
demand
for the whole preference here,
right.
that is the svara of the rush. Where did the rush and he even says that it doesn't make so much sense to compare mazik to avalpi sheyish l'chal b'nei and that's coming from a rush of the balchayis.
Right.
Mishim the Cubans is a yayev. Alvin is like timer. Le'mashma l'Rabbeinu the Cuban le'ashkacham the polag rabbanim beinayu. The whole svara is we're comparing them. It doesn't really make so much sense. But nobody said there's a difference, therefore we're going to compare them.
Right.
Whereas the Bach is really working off of a Gemara.
Right. Excellent. Excellent. Okay. The plot thickens. As I said, this is going to be the hot topic as we go into the Shulchan Aruch. But before we have to read the Drisha, it's a few more people we're going to read, just to they're going to to see what they have to say.
Right.
Okay. So who else did I put over here? I think the Drisha we'll read next time, Bli and Levush Ir Shushan. That's those are two people we'll see, and we'll see where they hold up in this position, and then we're ready for the Shulchan Aruch. Okay, great. That was very, very beautiful.
Okay.
And
very good. Very good. Okay.
And Einahara. Yeshukaya.
You were there to Yisrael.
Yeah, fantastic. Baruch Hashem. And you have grandmother should have a big sklis in Shemayim, and you should know no problems. And with Dovel, lo yadai Dovel, even though you're not an Ovel. But Baruch Hashem. Anyway.
Well, you should know there are some shittas that hold that since my mother's sitting shiva, there's certain avelos.
Yeah, that you have to.
As respect for your parent. Right.
Okay. Anyway, we'll see you next week, Bezrat Hashem. I'll send you this document just to have. Bezrat Hashem, I will. Okay. Whoops. Now I have to close this.
Okay, very good.
Okay, be well.
Okay, thank you.
Call too.
Bye-bye.